And I think we are live. That's what it at least says here. Beautiful. Welcome, friends, here to our channel about coaching for agility, which is obviously not only about agile coaching, but way more. My guest today, Nadia or Nadezda, is probably there is an abbreviation, Schmaranzer, and I think you even have a second last name because you have some cultural background, which is quite interesting. And for the beginning, I would love just to invite Nadia to briefly introduce herself. Nadia, it's your turn.
Hi, Mike. Hi, everyone. Really happy to be here. What about myself? Yeah, you can tell me Nadia because of my cultural background. I recognize that Nadezda could be a bit complicated to say, so I'm completely fine with Nadia. And what should I say? So I first met the Agile around 2015 when I really fell in love in this. And currently, so my last position before I left for maternity leave was as a Scrum Master in the Raiffeisenbank International, where I got to get known, how to say, all the pros and cons for the agile transformation from the inside. And recently, I'm a professional ICF coach, meaning that the ICF, this is one of the biggest global organizations for the coaching. And I'm happy to serve as the board member for the ICF Austrian chapter for professional development. So
Yeah.
I'm happy to highlight everything about coaching you would like to know.
Yeah, beautiful. Thanks a lot, Nadia. And so we already heard you have a background in Agile, there's coaching, there's professional coaching, and you're on a personal journey. And the first thing, what we're going to talk about today, hopefully is helpful for everyone who's watching live now. So use the potential or possibility to just, jump in with questions. We're happy to answer every question as much as possible. And at the same time, for those who will be listening afterwards, we hope to give you a lot of meaningful input, which you can take away with you. And for the beginning, I would just love to briefly start very high level. It's the thinking about, let's say it this way, what are your thoughts about agile coaching, right? It's a term. It's fair enough. I called myself agile coach a few years ago, and it's a huge topic. It's very important for many and many careers and many people. What's your thoughts? What's your experience around that?
Thank you, Mike, for question. I have a lot of thoughts, and I think this is also, whenever it is connected to the coaching or agile coaching, there are quite a lot of people who is now naming themselves like this. And for me, it has a quite different background, starting from the trainer or consultant, coming to some business or IT professional, and actually why it is called coaching. So what this personally gonna do, you never know. And whenever you're looking also at the job profiles on the LinkedIn, you can see a very different combination of the skills that the agile coach should have.
Yeah, so that's an interesting one. And I think what we are referring to, we have been talking a lot about this, is the quite well-known stances model, right? Michael Spade was basically, I think, the main author of it. Understanding that agile coaching, we sometimes think about a coaching stance, but sometimes it might be rather more facilitation. But it could be also going into the other side where we're more telling, maybe like being more of a mentor. It's not telling, but maybe sharing, and then even becoming a trainer sometimes might be part of the agile coach role. And the thing is that it's probably an interesting one, because what we see here is that 2 times coaching as a phrase is mentioned, right? You're an agile coach for all of this, but then there is one competency in there. I think Michael also calls it competency fields, which is about coaching. And the interesting bit about that, it might be a conflict, right? That you might run into potential issues. And here's a question. I mean, my observation is maybe a hypothesis plus an observation. In Agile, when I'm an Agile coach, we quite often challenge the idea of having an agenda as an Agile coach. Somehow the one or the other way, however big that is, we can go a little bit into more details. What do you think about that? Coming in as a coach, and you probably have been there, right? Working in the bank is expecting something of you. You're even a Scrum Master at some points. And so here we are. How do you handle that?
Definitely, this could be not so much easy because from the one hand, we say that the team knows how to do it better. And actually, the Scrum framework, this is just how to say, this is the bones, and depends from the team and from organization itself, which meat you will put on the bones. On the other hand, you come to the team and you say like, oh, look, I mentioned this you're doing wrong and this you're doing wrong, but what does it mean wrong? So it's quite interesting how you could still stay outside the system, look at the team like they know what to do. But on the other hand, you're a professional who is responsible to make the Scrum process correct. And this is the biggest challenge. In which head you will jump in now?
And this is an interesting one because maybe it's even not about Scrum, right? I'm coming in now as a coach, or am I coming in as a consultant, which is a very valid point and position. And some people might be really getting value out of a consultant who's got a lot of experience in this and that method. I'm even not mentioning one now, but just to say, all right, that's one stance. That's a total different role. But coaching, and now we're coming to ICF because you've got an ICF background and you're here for ICF Chapter Austria too. I think as far as I remember, and that brings us to the core competences and even more to the ethics, two interesting pieces of paper to look at. I think there are PDFs and a lot of information on the ICF websites about the ethics and about the competencies, core competencies. Now, would that even work from the stance of an ICF perspective? A coach would come in with their own agenda?
Thank you. Of course not, because in the ethics, the first page, what you can find that you must, as a coach, you're obliged, according to the code of the ethics, to clarify what is the difference between the coaching and consulting. You could come and provide the consulting, but then it is clear for everyone that you're doing consulting now. Whenever you're coming as a coach and you're providing the coaching, you're not able to have your agenda in mind. So the coaching, according to the ICF definition, this is the partnering with the client in order to highlight his strengths and empower him. And what does it mean, empower? This is meaning that I'm giving power to you. Whenever I'm acting in the consultant role, it could somehow understand that I know better than you what to do. And that's why the power is with me. So this is a key difference, I think.
And obviously there is a reason behind this. We're not here for, let's say, preaching about any organization like ICF. I mean, ICF is just a place for coaches, professional coaches meeting each other, and it's quite useful to look into it. But I once heard this term, your agenda, so you're the client, and my plan. The plan in this case is not to turn you around in terms of convincing you or anything alike. You have a goal, and my duty here as a professional coach would be, first of all, to become clear together about this goal or about this set of objectives. It might be, in the beginning something different, then we will elaborate together, right? And so what is the benefit out of this? Potentially, it's probably sustainability, right? Because if somebody is sitting there and saying, guys, this is my challenge, and we're not caring about this or that framework or anything, but we are having problems here as a team to succeed as a team. Now we're getting to the point, and now I'm coming in as an agile coach. Well, agile maybe in brackets, and just saying, well, there are tons of opportunities, but first of all, what do you, how do you see success as a team? How does that look like? All alike. And finally, wouldn't that be more about choice, right?
Exactly. So the coaching is basically about, from this point, from this stand, having this information that we have now, what is your goal now, and how you will recognize that you will reach this goal. Because even so, clarifying the goal brings a lot of clarity in sense. When it is a pain in an organization, you will formulate a goal like, yeah, I don't want this, I don't want that, I don't want that. But is it really a goal? The goal is what you would like to have instead. Yeah. And whenever you try to reach this, on each step of this journey, you just look back and say like, okay, so now, from this point of the journey, how my goal look like. And it could be that your goal was something completely different in the beginning that you discovered will be fitting better for you.
Right. So this is this exploration, right, and growth together somehow, as you mentioned. Don't worry about the noise behind, because I'm hearing children's voices. And once again, congratulations, because you got your second child recently, a few weeks ago, right? It's not weeks. It was somewhere around summer, right? Beginning of summer.
Now it's about months. Thank you.
And
Thank you, Mike.
I think children's voices can never be, somehow disturbing. It's actually our future, and so I really love the vital signs of life around us. That's interesting, because what comes in now is a potential conflict, right? Because let's assume I'm an agile coach. Guess I was hired by a client organization, and it was obviously not the team who hired me. It was a team lead, or it was a department lead, or it was, the overall strategy, which is about to, initiate a program, a larger program. Following good coaching practice would actually be about separating concerns, right? So who is sponsoring and who is my client as a coaching system? How does that fit together, and specifically in an agile initiative?
Let me add a bit more complexity even to this.
Sure, please.
Who is my client? Is it now a team member? Is it the team as whole? Is it the business owner? Is it the product owner? Is it the Scrum Master? Is it the tribe? Or is it the whole organization? And depending on this is also keeping in mind whose goal are we now hunting. If I'm doing this or that, who will benefit from this, and how it will bring us to the common goal with whoever you are contracting. So let me give you an example. If you're coming to coach a team, then you're making an agreement with the team what would be the best goal for them. But it could be that this is not the best goal for the tribe, or not the best goal for the product owner. And here's coming the question. That's why we have the code of ethics, because this code of ethics helps to decide, and the code of ethics say who is your client.
So how would you handle this in this situation? Because that's a concrete scenario, right? You're saying now, okay, I'm coming in, I'm coaching a team, they pulled me, and maybe the team lead, but there is an overall agenda, but there's a whole tribe. I was not invited to coach there, or maybe I was. That adds another complexity, because now I'm in touch with the team, and I'm in touch with the tribe lead. What are we going to do now?
Bring the clarity. So exactly following the agile mindset way, meaning that you need to bring transparency and clarity in the communication, but thinking also, of course, about not breaching the confidentiality. And there is a difference between confidentiality and secrecy. So this is also two different things. So what you're going to do, you're going to clarify what is the goal that the team would like to achieve with you. What is any other goal that they want you to involve to be as a coach for this, and how does it fit together? And only after this is clarified, you could plan the next actions. And what does it mean you could plan the next actions? You will ask the team, okay, and now, how do you think, what would be the best way? Where do we need to look at? So, and this is about the coaching. You're always giving the choice, and you're always giving the power back to the team or to the client who you're coaching.
Again, this sounds ethical, humane, and at the same time sustainable, because actually it's all about, hey, what's happening when we leave? Coaching is not about just being around when we leave. We don't care about it. It should be sustaining itself. And what is interesting, I was just thinking, of course you're being asked this and that method. Again, I don't give it a name. How do you do this? How do you do that? And so on and so forth, right? So you will be asked tons of times. And maybe you have so much knowledge because they know you are a whatever accredited, certified, or something trainer of anything, right? So you're part of a body of knowledge and you have this. Now, what do? Do you turn on another hat, as the coaching stances might suggest? You don't have to do it in a session, right? You can do it, all right, next Monday we'll do another session, but then I'm coming in with a different, let's say, in a different role, in a different stance, and I'll be showing up as a trainer. Would that be recommended, or what would be an alternative?
I mean, from my point of view, it's complicated. For me, it would be really complicated. Why? First of all, because of the acceptance channel. So whenever the team is listening to something or team is actively speaking, it is simulating a different part of the brain, and it brings team to the different mode. And when you say like, okay, now you're switching from this to this, it's a different process. It's very hard. It will be not beneficial at all. But from me personally, like a personality, it will be also not so easy. It's come again back to the ethics and the mindset, what we would like to achieve with this action. And if I could say like, look, I have this experience and I have this knowledge, but how now based on this knowledge you would like to act? So this coming together with the coaching mindset. If I say, okay, now I'm just changing the head and I say, could you please do this? Maybe this is not coming to the coaching mindset. Maybe this is something different. And if you could put not on just a different head, but different mindset, that it's interesting thing.
Yeah. Now that's really interesting. In German, that doesn't translate into English. Whoever's listening to that in English, there is a phrase which is called "Auch ein Ratschlag ist ein Schlag." That's from Sonja Radatz, who is another very well-known, recognized person in the field of the professional coaching. And what that actually means is like any advice is finally also a hit in the face of somebody. You're slamming your advice in there and you believe that's helpful. Maybe somebody didn't ask for it, but what it doesn't help for is moving further, right? It's this sort of, well, and then I know we have the discussion of, yeah, but these guys don't know. Yeah, it's like you need to learn any profession, and it's always helpful for having guidance. Wouldn't it be then, first of all, be helpful to just get somebody else in? Like I'm coaching a team, but now instead of using Michael's model of the stances as a potential, let's say, variation for myself, it's like there are different people potentially occupying these spaces, but I don't slip just into another role. Would that be something you would prefer or potentially find interesting? Or I'm not trying to sell it, by the way.
I believe somewhere I read also that these instances, they were not supposed to be necessary for one person, but for the team of the coaches. And what does it mean? It would be really helpful, but also if the team of the coaches is the team. Meaning that the team of the coaches, whenever they will translate the training or they will translate the facilitation or they will deliver the mentoring or whatever, they will act as a one person. They will represent the same as a one body in front of the team, and they will be the role model for the team.
That is beautiful, because that also brings us to another element, right? Because that would bring us as a team of coaches or all these people who are helping here, or let's say, intervening with our client system to the point, hey, actually, we also need to design our being together, right? So like, I'm not sure if you use the same terms. I think Coactive uses designing the alliance. So basically, what are the working agreements? But even more, how do we want to be together? Okay. And this might be as a coaches team, like, who's right, who's wrong? What happens when we are not agreeing? And I think coaches have a lot of potential there to say, here's a few coaches. How are we going to show up then?
Exactly. In ICF, in the team coaching competences, it calls like co-coach, and it's really written like you need to appear as it would be the one body in front of the team. And the more complexity that also you're taking the team as the one body.
But that's
which
really
is also
beautiful.
not so easy.
Yeah, exactly. But it's beautiful. It raises a lot of complexity, but I think the system is complex, and it deserves actually to approach it in complex ways, right? There's Ashby's law of requisite variety, as we know, and actually complex systems need at least the same amount or level of complexity to approach them in meaningful ways. Otherwise, it's a trivial, dangerous limitation. So coaches, getting back to the single role as the coach, would benefit also from finding an official agreement, working agreement with sponsors, but specifically also the team, right? Like saying, okay, now we talked about your goal. How do we want to proceed in our relationship as coachees and coach? What about that? What is helpful to consider there?
A lot of things. So first of all, what is helpful to consider how you will go out from the process, because again, our goal is not solving the problem for the team and then they don't know what to do, but our problem to learn the team to solve the problem, that they are gaining this muscle. So we could take them on the hands and we could bring them to the finish line, but we are interested that they could make this to the finish line by themselves next time. So this is the one point that you need to discuss. What will happen with the role of the coach after you are leaving the setting, which is also assuming that you're in a permanent role at this team. Oh, sorry, a temporary role on this team. So the second thing, this is about splitting the power. What will be expected from the coach and what will be expected from the team lead or from the sponsor or from the business owner or from any kind of other power structure in the organization. Which decisions is team able to take on their own? Which decisions the business owner or the sponsor is taking? And what is your freedom? What are you allowed to do or not? And the third thing, it's also about how do we exit from some not nice scenarios. And this is something which could be forgotten in the beginning because you're focusing on the positive outcome. But if there is some information that's supposed to be confidential from the team coaching, how you handle with this information, which kind of information are you allowed to disclose to the sponsor or not, and also making this transparent to the team. How you will manage the conflict management, how you will manage that the goal is changed during the contract. All of these things, they used to be clarified before you enter in the coaching relation.
Awesome. Where can people find this list? You just mentioned tons of interesting advice. Is there anything we can point them to where it's written up instead of attaining a five months or 12 months course?
Well, in an easy form, you can just go to the ICF website. It's the coachingfederation.org, and you have there two things. You have there the ICF core competencies, which are competencies for the individual coaching, and also you could enter in the search there the team coaching competencies. They're pretty much fresh, they're new, and they're given an add-on to the individual coaching competencies. So you could just read and reflect on how does it sound to you.
Cool. All right. Just to be sure, because some people usually ask then, all right, there were so many great bits and pieces. Where can I go deeper? Now, here's a scenario, a typical one, where as an agile coach, quite often I run around and, because I'm not only maybe coaching one team, I'm coaching a bigger system. And I am biased. Well, everyone is biased, right? As human beings, everyone has biases. We can't switch them off. Probably the opportunity is to become more skillful in handling them. Let's put it this way. But very often, I believe, and that was happening in my early days, you run around and you see spots of improvement. They might say, come on, these guys are doing that wrong, or this board looks terrible, or this leader behaves in a way that harms this and that team, and this list can go on and on. But now, if I'm now into the shoes of a professional coach, and I'm not pushing myself in, but the system needs to pull me in, right? Is it right? Or how it's like catch-22. I see potential. What would you do?
I think the very important thing what you told here, whenever you start to observe that this is wrong and this leader is not fit or something, it might be that you already is a part of the system. And as a coach, you are not allowed to be involved. So whenever you observe that you are in the system and you could not step out here in your head, probably it's a reason to stop coaching. The same when you're visiting the supervisions or the mentorings and you realize that at this moment you were not speaking as a coach, you were not speaking from the world and experience of the client, but from your experience. Probably it was not the coaching process, it was the leading.
And again, it's not about qualification, it's about the ethics. So what can people expect from you when you have an agreement? And probably the idea of, again, is a bias, or there is research also out there. No, it's also research. What is more sustainable, telling or coaching, right?
Maybe I could also bring a one point, even if it is coming to the mentoring, like, look, this is my knowledge and my experience, but how does it to you? You still have an agreement on the mentoring process in the beginning. So this is the same contracting part with your mentee, like how do you learn the most? Why do you want to hear this? What you will do different when you know this? So it's again about agreement and ethics behind.
Beautiful. So you mentioned supervision. That is obviously a very helpful and professional process, again, as a coach, to find your mirror, right? To find your system of reflection where you can just become more aware of what you're doing. Because in the process, except you're a superhero, many of you are probably, again, feel free to post in your questions, whatever questions you have or comments. You can't see what you're doing in the process while you're doing it. What is your impact? How do you react or act on certain signals or anything? How do you go for supervision? I mean, is that something where you would choose a certain, let's say, type of person, or where would you see, especially again in the agile space, the supervision coming in? Is that my responsibility as a coach, do it for my own, or what do you think?
I would love that we also have a supervision for the agile coaches, because in professional coaching, it's happening. So first of all, this is a special person who is a supervisor, and what does it mean, supervision? You're getting out of your situation, you're getting outside of yourself, of your system, and you're looking at the situation like you would observe someone else's situation. So this helps you to gain this external view. For the agile coaches, maybe it's coming more in the direction even intervision. So intervision means that I don't have some specific learned person, but I bringing out my situation, I bringing out my feelings, or I bringing out everything that I would like to share about the situation, and they could help me. How do they see this when they're hearing this as external person? And this again will center yourself to the external viewer, and you could decide how you could do this differently the next time, or why does it triggering you in this way.
That's really helpful. Would you be keen on some group, or maybe a person, but group in this case for introvision, really being external, or do you think the system of coaches could do that amongst themselves? But now let's talk about, these are all coaches in the same client system and in the same initiative, or would that be like saying, hey, we're just chuckling around biases here?
Thank you for bringing this point. From my perspective, but again, this is just my perspective, it should be external. Because also the one important thing about these cases, this is confidentiality. And if everyone knows about whom does it told now, and you could bring up some details which you got through the coaching, through the role of the coach, this is not ethical.
Now, this is a very good point, because I can imagine now I think there are more than 500 agile coaches out there, and that's always a little bit of a joke, obviously. But many of them, I can imagine a larger number, have been or are really in a process where they don't have any of this. No supervision, maybe even no agreements with teams, no coaching being pulled in. So there's a lot of things to consider. You don't have to do it, but you can consider it. Another thing, and that would bring us actually to the other side, basically the differentiation as a summary. It's helpful to differentiate a consultant role from a coaching role. I think it's pretty okay if you are on a team of strategic consultants or consulting a company, that you talk about the client, that you do all the things which you're used to do. But as soon as you're entering a professional coaching, and again, agile coaching, what is it? Is it more consulting? Is it more professional coaching? You would actually change here, right? Now, you're in the situation, being in a large initiative, and you're being called by your clients, I don't know, one of the top managers, because they want something from you. It doesn't all work perfectly as they want it. And maybe there is even another one. We want to know how the teams perform. we've all been there, right? We coach many teams as a team of coaches. What do you do?
Coming back to the
sorry for that.
agreement.
It's very blunt. What do you think?
Coming back to the agreement, what was the agreement when you started?
Mm-hmm.
And I think this is also the point that usually the agreement is missing. The agreement is, yes, they need to be productive. What does it mean to be productive? How you will recognize that they're productive? Where is my responsibility as the coach here, and where is the team responsibility? Where is your responsibility as the top manager in here? So coming back to ABC, always be contracting.
Yeah. And this would probably mean, I mean, we know what we're touch pointing here, that you might lose or not lose, but not find the same number or kind of, let's say, contracts as you did before. Because if I put now at the table, and that's the question, maybe there are educated leaders or managers who say, well, it's a little bit hard what you think about here, the way you want to agree things, but maybe they find out, yeah, but it's not stupid, and let's get there, right?
Thank you for bringing this point. But yeah, this is about the ethical. Again, the ethical, this is not something which you apply it only when it is suitable for you. But this is something which you apply during the whole communication between the coach and the client. So the same here, to define what is the ethical code for you as the agile coach. Is it now something okay what you're doing here or not? But definitely, but this is again the question to each person. Would you like to do something which is contradicting your mindset in order to get more contracts, or do you stick to some mindset and you translating this mindset?
All right, so there are already a couple of touch points I think we met. It's all about the initial agreements. Oh, in German, we would call it Auftragsklärung. Terrible word. So it all sounds a little bit more formal, but it is a professional way which helps you as an agile coach too. Now, thinking about, again, this agile coaching, and that brings us to basically to the final bit for today's session, because, by the way, next time we want to dive a little bit more deeper into something which is even more interesting. What's the difference between just coaching and maybe just coaching individuals? You mentioned it today. It's a huge difference to coaching a whole system, for example, teams. And that is not just coaching the sum of its parts. That is what probably most of you already consider. But Nadia has to tell us a lot about these things, a lot about the competencies and what to look after. But once again, coming back to the initial thing, agile coaching, what do you see as a direction where this leads us to in the next few years? Specifically, when we talk about this telling, I think there is no lack of practices, right? More and more practices are coming in. They're becoming larger and larger. What do you think? What can be the role of agile coaches on the one hand side? And how can we show up that we help clients better achieving their goals? It's a very broad question, I know, but
I'm sorry to narrow it down back to the ABC, always be contracting. I hope that the agile coaches will be clear, first of all, for themselves, what are their roles and what are the services that they're providing to the team or organization. And also making clear this for the team or organization, not only for myself as Nadia, I know that I could do this, but making clear whenever I'm entering the organization, whenever I'm in the middle of the process, what is the agreement, why I'm here, and how is the best way to reach the goal, which is not given by me, but defined by my client.
So if I interpret you right, I mean, sticking to this really clear professional stance of coaching, which you would have to design. I mean, first of all, be clear about yourself, but then design it together with your clients. That would create a potentially more, a better soil to build upon. It would maybe lead into different directions than initially thought. Hey, we're maybe not doing Scrum here, or this and that framework, or even install a big one. But we're finding ways to enable people, to empower people, enable them to go their own ways, right? And I'm always assuming people are not stupid. I mean, we hired people for the sake of, right? Now here they are.
Thank you, Mike. It's maybe I finish with one of the most important principles of the coaching in here is that we are believing that the client has already all the knowledge and resources to achieve their goal, and our task is here just to remind him. And if he or she or organization is recognizing that this is not the right way, perfect, that they know the best way.
Right. That's beautiful. Now, I've got a final question before we stop here. Because I mentioned Scrum Mastery before, you've been into this role too, right? You worked with teams on Scrum. And some people discuss this. What's the difference between Scrum Master and Agile Coach? Call it Agile Coach or Coach, doesn't matter. What do you think?
You're unfair to put this as the last question. It's a broad field.
Okay, we can keep it for another session, but yeah, maybe add a little bit to it.
Maybe, in a short sentence, I see still the Scrum Master. This is something who is involved in the team in one or the other way, and the Agile Coach this is someone who could observe the team externally from this point of view. So for me, this is only the perspective matter.
And I like that. It's something I never formulated this way or heard it this way, because you know this sometimes terrible distinction is, well, Scrum Masters coach, they work with one team specifically on Scrum. In a Scrum environment, not on Scrum. Whereas Agile coaches coach a bit, at least multiple teams, usually a bigger organization, and that's not only about Scrum, right? That is I don't know, I don't get it. This is first of all, I think, how can you coach a whole organization? I mean, that's a little bit weird. I wouldn't do that. And second, it's obviously there are different ways, right? Inside, outside view. That's a very interesting one. And probably a lot of people disagree now. I can totally imagine. And that's fine. We're looking for your comments and ideas and your experiences.
And actually, I love to discuss the things. Whoever is disagreeing, really, I'm looking forward, because exactly in this discussion, you can find something which is the new truth now for this moment.
Yeah, exactly. Beautifully said. Thank you very much, Nadia. We're coming back. That was just the first session here in this Coaching for Agility channel. We'll put out your contact information on LinkedIn. It's anyway available, so everybody can connect with you. Again, we already put the ICF information. Here's again, what is it? The international one. Probably there is a chapter in every country. We are proud about our country. It's Austria, but there are many, many others, and that's all about community building, finding peers and exchange ideas, and maybe find collaboration opportunities. So there's a lot of things out there. Next time, we'll see when that happens pretty soon. Then it's hopefully about this systems coaching idea. What is recommendable there? What is different? And where can I then find different kinds of skills or competencies to dive deeper into that? For now, thank you, Nadia, for having been my that's the wrong one. For having been my guest today, and wish you a good day with your family for the rest of this day today.
Thank you, Mike. Happy to dive in the coaching and such exciting environment. Goodbye.
Beautiful. Goodbye. Cheers.